Welcome everyone to our group presentation. The controversial conversation that we're going to discuss today is about the water price. So many people complain that water price is just too high in Vietnam. However, others argue that water price should be even more expensive to make people conserve water better. So to understand more about our viewpoint upon this, we divide it into four main parts. First, the introduction. What if we agree with the statement? What if we don't? And our final answer. So now let's start with the introduction.
Recent years, the amount of water usage in Vietnam is expanding due to increased irrigation demand, industrial expansion, and growing population. So facing with this problem, the Vietnamese government has adjusted the price of clean water to increase gradually from 2019 to 2022. Specifically, on the screen, you can see the latest price bracket of water based on area effective on August 2021. Later on, our group will discuss both sides of whether the water price should even be more expensive to make people conserve better. First, let's look at why we should increase the water price.
Now I will present why water rights should be increased. But everyone can have access to clean water with three parts. To begin with, I will mention the current situation of wasting water into landfills. First, as we all know, agriculture is one of the fields that consume the most water. In the past, we mainly focused on exploiting water resources, but how to use water effectively has not been considered. In fact, limited understanding of agricultural techniques required by plants in each growing period leads to very wasteful use of water. Causes by and loss of irrigation water in service of agricultural production include loss in the process of transporting water from the focal works to the field due to sedimentation, landslides, etc. Furthermore, in Vietnam, there are no active measures to limit evaporation of the open surface. For instance, according to the average rainfall in the Trinh Quang and Ninh Thuận provinces, that are 1,145 millimeters per year and 850 millimeters per year, respectively, we can see that the amount of water loss shown in the table is more than the average rainfall. The next reason is that farmers' awareness of water use is not high, which means that they are not equipped with knowledge about water requirements for crops. In addition, responsibilities between the water suppliers and the beneficiaries are implemented through economic contracts but are unclear and not serious. Next, I will talk about waste of domestic water. In Vietnam, the amount to pay for water is only 0.4% per capita income, which has made some people lack conscientiousness when using domestic water. Besides that, there are still many people who unintentionally or intentionally commit acts to cause loss of water resources. Most activities wasting fresh water consist of forgetting to turn off the faucet, using the wrong pump, etc.
Next, we will move on the benefits of increasing water price. Increasing the water price seems like a concern for everyone when using at home or in production, because the will find cost higher. First, more people may have incentive to sell water at a cost. It leads to the rise in the source of money, so the government can do it to do water projects such as building new water storage facilities, coming up with new solutions to maintain quality of fresh water, and investing in low water equipment. Household, industry, and agriculture all made the true cost of water consumption, while water price to cover the cost of environmentally soil treatment and disposal.
Hello everyone, I'm Hope, and now I'm going to talk about some recommended solutions to ensure that everyone can access water. As we all know that water of adequate quality for residential consumption and agriculture is typically scarce in rural areas in low-income, high-population nations like Vietnam. To make sure that everyone have access to clean water, there are many different solutions for water distribution. Some examples of solutions are through better access to hydrogeologists to the poorer countryside for them to determine how to dig water holes that produce safe water, maintain the watershed, and how to have a prudent use of the groundwater. Interprovincial low-cost water system for long-distance water transportation for rural areas with a lack of safe water, such as areas still affected by Agent Orange, could be an alternative for villages or cities with an unsafe water supply. From government standpoint, A redistribution tax from high income businesses and households could be applied for them to collect funds for a water infrastructure project aimed at developing water filtering and distributional systems for poorer areas. This fund could be maintained and seen as a catalyst for them to systematically escalate the development of water infrastructure. Moreover, water prices for businesses should be higher than water prices for living in households, since most businesses consume higher volumes of water and use the water for investment purposes, while the everyday person only uses water for living, and most people do not benefit economically from the water they use at home. However, some might say the poor should have lower prices. Others might think it is unfair to not have the linear pricing policy for all citizens, as the fact is that poor households might not have the same education when it comes to water consumption and might overuse. Therefore, providing proper education for all citizens in water consumption is a must, and putting responsibility for the amount of water each household uses is very important. Now, I will leave it to my teammate to continue on this presentation.
The question that all of us are concerned about is the water price in Vietnam, and there are many arguments saying that the water price in the country is significantly high. While other people even suggest increasing the price, we support the statement for remaining it and ways to conserve water. So, starting with the reason, why shouldn't we increase the water price? As far as we're concerned, the water cost is not to be counted based on the amount of water used in cubic meter, about 6.300 Vietnam dong for every first-hand cubic meter, so the price is conceivably standard and should not be increased regarding many perspectives in terms of sanitation, hygiene, the industry, and national economy. If the increase in water price only aims to deter people wasting water, then the decision must be promptly reconsidered because there are several ways to raise people awareness of saving water. High price may be observed as a two-phase method and even lead to the complete accessibility to fresh water of local people. This literally depends on their uses and consciousness in how and what they use water for. In case that they overuse, with no doubt they will be charged at a higher price. By contrast, higher price would restrict not only the water uses but also the accessibility of fresh water to many people. Recently, Vietnam still has to face up to the tremendous impact of COVID-19 pandemic, so many people have temporarily lost their job and struggle with their living income. And due to their low income salary, they carry economic burden including renting costs, food costs, and other expenses. Once the water price increases, they will have more difficulties in accessing fresh water, sanitation, hygiene, and food security, so they will not be able to have fresh water for daily activities. And ultimately, the twisted situation will happen in which rich people waste water, while poor and rural people do not have enough fresh water to use. And furthermore, the government has enacted policies to assist local people to minimize the water price or even exemption to those living in poverty to make sure that everyone is affordable to access and use fresh water for life. On the other hand, there is no guarantees that the water filter system will be upgraded if they decide to raise the price for better qualities. The public construction are usually observed to quickly deteriorate or because of low quality or long postponement.
Next, we discuss the difficulty for enterprise when water fees increase. Nowadays, the cost of clean water for enterprise is nearly 7,000 cubic meter or higher than that for household using. Because the company consume more water, the government has imposed a separate pricing for them. When the cost of clean water rise, companies are obliged to raise the cost of their services, causing market fluctuation. Raising water price causes difficulty for firms if they don't increase the price of their products. On the other hand, if they do increase the price of their product, they will easily lose a number of potential customers. Furthermore, if the price of water rise, some firms won't utilize clean water but instead use filtered water and filter it at a lower cost. Businesses want waste clean water as the water price is much higher, and if they waste water, they will have to pay more, affecting the capital of the firm. As a result, it's appropriate not to increase water fees for the firms. In contrast, If companies consume a significant quantity of water, the government should enact laws to lower water rates for them so they can satisfy product demands with fresh water, especially during the pandemic. Business reduce wages and income, but the cost of essential products and services increase by force majeure. Electricity and water are commodities that have a strong impact on people's lives. So these industries need to plan to reduce price to partly share and empathize with people and businesses. As an illustration, the Quantum Water Supply GSA issued a double water price increase compared to the previous year. Even selling medication has no impact or utility on the water, but they must pay twice as much for it. Besides that, increasing water price often causes dissatisfaction and complaints among individuals and businesses.
Hello everyone, my name is Hua, and now I will move on to the next part of our presentation about how to conserve water without raising the price. For this question, I do believe that the problem is not a matter of whether we know how to conserve water or not. It's not a matter of the water price is high or not. It's a matter of us. Please be noted that an action cannot be repeatable if that action does not represent what we actually want to do. Therefore, the best way to conserve water is making everyone start thinking about this problem. To answer this question, do you really care about conserving water? I want to spot out the ignorance of people who are neutral. To be honest, if you're just on the side of doing nothing and let the situation go on by itself, then our source of water could never be conserved. Hence, all of us need to be mindful and take actions. Raising awareness is really significant. We all know that social media has power and they can help us educate more people. You'd be surprised at how much influence a like, a comment, or a share have. You only need to see one post to change your perspective. Educate others in your community to spread this information to as many people as possible. We should take actions in both macro and micro levels. At macro level, the government should set water quality standards, issue water use permits, and ensure reliable supplies. They need to control consumption rates for business, prepare for drought and emergency situations, and promote efficient water use and water conservation. And at micro level, each of us can reduce our water usage through some small actions. We can update the water-saving sanitary equipment. For example, a Japanese toilet with a sink on top that allows you to wash your hands with clean water that drains into the toilet bowl. Also, it is ideal to take shower in less than 5 minutes, and this can help us save up to 70 liters per shower. How many times have you left the tap running while brushing your teeth and washing your hands? Too many, right? So you can save up to 20 liters per day just by turning up the tap while doing such things. Next, please turn up the tap while washing clothes and dishes. This will save more than 50 liters of water per day. More than 60% of water pollution come from things such as trash and litter. All these sources add up to a big pollution problem. So believe it or not, the biggest source of water pollution today is not industry, it is actually a household like us.
This brings us to the end of our presentation. We all know that Vietnam is an agricultural country, hence water supply for agricultural and living purpose are essential. To answer the questions about whether the water price in Vietnam should increase or not, please let me just run over the key points again. In terms of agriculture in general, farmer awareness is very poor. They don't know how to use water effectively and are wasting a huge amount of water. The increase in water price will make farmers pay more attention to the issue of saving water. In the field of domestic water, according to the statistic, as the price of water is so cheap, people do not attach importance to saving water and use it very wastefully. They think they can still afford the monthly water bill even if they waste it. From these two factors, we come to the conclusion that water price need to increase to raise people awareness and the government can use the extra money to improve water quality in Vietnam. However, is it a radical method? The purpose of raising water price is to increase individual consciousness, can only make people save at first, but not really help them to know how to use water effectively. In addition, increasing water price will limit water access of low-income groups, especially during the time of COVID-19 pandemic. This will lead to the new problem that the rich can still waste a lot of water, but the poor have no water to use.
Therefore, in order for all people to access and use clean water, our group disagrees with the statement. We increase the price of water is not an effective and long-term solution. The way to save it is that we need to use it efficiently and for the right purpose. Our team has come up with some useful solution to raise people awareness and to provide knowledge on how to use and save water. We believe that once people are aware and know how to conserve it, the problem of water waste will be solved thoroughly. And here are some reference. And thank you for your attention. If you have any question, just raise your voice.